Welcome to Malpractice Podcast.
So, are you ready to get started?
Yes, I am. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
My name is Sydney.
I'm Jess.
Yep. We're on it today.
Yep. We're on top of it.
And what we're on top of is this Malpractice Podcast.
Period.
Yep. Immediately sighs.
Yeah. So, last week, if you tuned in,
Mm-hmm.
I sounded like I was in a fishbowl. I might sound better. If I don't sound better, please DM directly me, not to the podcast.
I mean, honestly, don't.
I have now. It's better now. Well, we're back.
Are we going to, at this point, like over a year in, are we going to open ourselves up to negative feedback at this point? Because it feels like it's too late.
I just don't want you to message the podcast because I at the podcast don't care, but I sing as a single individual do care.
I think it sounds great. Jessica has a really good setup in her
I think it sounds so much better.
little podcast office now.
I do. In my new closet.
Always a closet.
Don't worry, still a closet, holding strong.
It looks really good, and it's like comfortable and spacious.
I like it.
It's nice.
Did you have a good weekend?
Yes, except for a fact that you alluded to in our notes, which is that Eric had to work at 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, which I don't know how you are with an alarm. If an alarm goes off, it will wake me up,
Oh, yeah.
right?
100%.
So his alarm goes off at like 4:30, and I was like, okay, well, see you later. Have a good day at work. Sorry you have to work on a Saturday. That sucks.
Bye-bye now.
And he's like, okay.
Go.
Tiptoes out like a church mouse, right? Super quiet. Then he gets in his car. His Bluetooth connects to the Alexa that is next to my face,
Mm-hmm.
and he starts playing loud rock music.
Because he's trying to connect to the car.
He's trying to connect to his car, doesn't know it's connected to the Alexa,
Mm-hmm.
and then it connects to her, starts playing music in my face, and I'm like, whoa, stop. I tell her to stop, right?
What do you say? Do you say, like, Alexa, shut the fuck up? Like, what do you say to Alexa?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
I'm usually nice to her. I'm like, please stop. And Eric's like, you don't have to say please. She's a robot. And then it was like just enough time for me to fall back asleep, and he did it again.
Yeah. He was struggling.
And then it was 5 a.m. and I was like, I'm awake now because I've been startled awake by rock music twice.
So I called Sydney, I texted her pretty early Saturday morning,
Mm-hmm.
and she responded so that I called her because I knew something was up. Because it was like,
She's like, what are you doing awake at this point?
I was like, what happened? What's the goss?
Yeah.
Why are you awake?
Eric
And it was Eric.
principally fucked on me. That's what happened this weekend.
What did he say about it?
He was like, I am so sorry. I had no idea I was connected to the robot until it wouldn't play through my speakers, and I got really confused.
For the third time, Eric?
Yeah. What about you? How was your weekend?
It was pretty good. We're just like still getting settled. Let me shout out Michelle really quick.
Mm-hmm.
I almost got said like, oh, I hope the person who owned this house before doesn't listen to this, but she doesn't.
She's old. Yeah.
Certainly not. But she had the most horrendous blinds.
What kind of blinds were they?
They were like fake wood blinds.
Like the color of wood, too?
Like the color of light wood.
Oh, no.
It was actually like
Mm-mm.
kind of dating the house.
Well, yeah.
They're fugly.
For sure.
Michelle's like
Yeah.
She put in, we have a ton of windows too, but she's installing like all of them.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
In Texas,
That you have to have them.
you have got to have blinds. You literally have to. Your house will be 20 degrees hotter without blinds.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous. Yeah, I've also, not everybody knows this probably, but Jess definitely does. I'm in the middle of writing my dissertation for my PhD. Which means I'm almost done with my PhD, but also means I'm in the middle of like stressing out constantly.
Yeah.
So I'm drinking, I'm going to say 4 to 6 cups of coffee a day.
That's wild.
It is unhealthy. I'm like shaking all the time. I look like
You sound like
a cocaine addict.
yeah. Remember when I was like a quad shot?
Of like venti quad shot.
Hell yeah.
Jess would walk into a Starbucks and be like, what do you have that's just below cocaine?
Yeah, seriously.
Give me
And
that.
they'd be like, ma'am, we have something for you.
They'd be like, ma'am, seek help, but also we got you.
We do have what you need.
Not good for you. Your heart is going to race.
Yeah, you're not going to feel great. Well,
No,
you
for
might.
sure.
I don't know.
Not me.
We went to IKEA this weekend.
Oh my God, me too, on Friday night.
Wait, seriously?
Yes.
Why are we the same?
I needed a mirror and IKEA had a good mirror.
Have you ever eaten at the food court there?
No, but I have heard great things about their meatballs.
Okay, listen.
From trash people, to be fair.
Let me tell you about it.
Your face makes me think that that's a correct assessment.
It is not good.
Really?
I can't speak to the actual meatballs because I don't eat meat.
Yeah.
They have some, it's like making me feel nauseous right now thinking about it. They have like veggie meatballs and I was like, what a great idea.
What's in a veggie meatball?
Ugh.
Not good.
I had half of one.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I ate. I was like, I'm sick.
They smell really pungent when you walk past.
They do not smell good.
I can't do it. Because also I'm like, I don't really want to buy my mirror in the same place where I eat. I understand the appeal of that if you've like been at IKEA for a long time.
I had immediate regret. Seconds. No. A single solitary second after putting that in my mouth, I was like, that was a mistake.
Okay, fair.
It was not a good experience.
I think I've bought chocolate from there before and I was like, this tastes like plastic.
You know, if you like their hot dogs, I think the problem was we ate.
Oh, the hot dogs. That's what people are into, right? The meatballs and the hot dogs.
I think so. We ate at the food situation inside the IKEA, and I think the better food is like when you're exiting.
Oh, okay.
And you can get like an ice cream or something like that.
It's hard to mess up an ice cream.
Right. People have done it.
Speaking of which, one of our friends made homemade ice cream for us this weekend.
Oh, bitch. I love ice cream.
Oh my God, it was so good. He made it out of chocolate milk and it tasted like a chocolate truffle.
Okay. We need to do that again.
Like it was thick and creamy. Oh, so good.
Let's share that with me.
Both of us need to get one of these ice cream makers.
I used to have one. I don't know where mine is.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you use it?
Absolutely not.
Oh, well.
I think I would now.
Yeah, you would.
You know,
now.
with a house, I think I would.
As a homeowner.
As I'm a homeowner. But yeah, no, never.
As an adult in your 30s, it feels like there's a lot more opportunity to make ice cream for yourself.
To need the ice cream.
Correct.
Yeah, you need it.
Life is hard. You need ice cream.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah. You want to get into this story?
I do, and I'm so excited. So, look, everyone.
I'm excited, nervous. What is the word for that? Anxious.
Oh,
no.
I was about to put excited and nervous together.
Nervous.
And be like, nersited.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
So, we talked vampires last week, and we came across a really, really terrible, awful, horrible, really bad person.
Mm-hmm.
A person that we've deemed everyone's least favorite vampire. He liked blood, and because he sucks more than almost anyone we have ever read about, we're going to talk about him today as kind of a part 2 to last week, but more of a continuation on the type of person who became a criminal and also did probably have several medical conditions. And we get into some of the diagnosis that he eventually got, but he definitely was excited by blood and like did drink people's blood. So,
okay, first of all, if you're not in the field of psychiatry, I don't know why you would have a strong opinion on this, but if you believe that Renfield syndrome is real, this guy has it.
Oh yeah. He also has
psychopathy,
just assholery.
He's a dick for sure.
Just terrible. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in the true crime vibe of last week, we're doing this kind of part 2 so we can dig into this guy. So buckle up, friends. His name is Peter Kürten. He has been referred to as a vampire because he was discovered to be drinking the blood of the people he murdered. Peter is Grossington. Like, that's the first word that I came up with in my mind when I was reading about him. I'm like, ew, he's Grossington.
He's nasty for sure.
And he was, spoiler alert, executed in 1931 in
Cologne, Germany.
Cologne. I was just hearing Michelle bang on the wall.
Michelle is hammering. Cool.
Yeah, she is. And I know she's trying to make her house nice, but it's kind of quiet time right now. In Cologne, Germany, in the Klingelputz prison.
Klingelputz
seems like a name.
The funniest name I've ever heard of a prison.
Yeah.
It sounds like a ride at Disney World.
Yeah. Or like, we were talking about Harry Potter, like a treat that would be on the trolley on the train. Oh, little klingleputs for you.
Or like a Willy Wonka situation.
Yes. He had average height, dark hair, and was overall just like a regular looking guy.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, he was, depraved.
Yeah.
He had been committing crimes for at least the previous 30 years that included burglary, arson, attempted murder, rape, attempted rape, cannibalism, regular murder, just like all the heavy hitter. He like literally tried it all.
Yeah. He dabbled.
They think his number of victims ranges from 35 to 70, but they're not clear because obviously you can't trust this maniac. And he admitted to crimes.
Yeah.
But they're like not sure about if he had admitted to all of them. Sometimes criminals will admit to some of their crimes, but some of them they're like, no, that's too crazy to admit to.
Yeah. It's almost too dark for the public to hear. Or something. I don't know.
I don't know what could be more dark than what he did, but
no.
He was known as the vampire of Düsseldorf and the Düsseldorf monster because of his fascination and obsession with the blood of his victims. And he would leave them in the most horrifying scenes.
Yeah. He also, we're going to get into his childhood, but first I want to say he also specifically chose victims for the maximum effect that killing certain people would have on society. So he didn't target people that were, like you often hear victims referred to as high risk if they lead a high risk lifestyle, which we can get into that separately. It's kind of a messed up description, but he specifically killed like men, women, children for the impact that killing those people would have on society. Like he's a monster. So
at minimum.
Right. So in his childhood, I feel like it's important to talk about this because he's going to make a very strong case in the whole nature versus nurture debate in the sense that his childhood feels like the type of thing that is kind of designed to make someone into a serial killer.
I totally agree.
Now, tons of people have a horrific childhood and they end up being upstanding people who overcome their circumstances, but that's not Peter.
Yeah. They don't become serial killers.
Correct. But here's like a blanket trigger warning on this entire episode. His life is very tragic from the start. And we're going to discuss that a little here. There's going to be mentions of things that could be really triggering, like abuse, incest.
Rape. There's a lot of stuff.
Not good things. Bestiality.
Yeah.
Lots of things are going to come up. If you're sensitive to any of that, you're probably just going to want to skip this episode.
And that's fine. We respect.
Yeah. Just so you're aware. So Peter was born in 1883. He was the eldest of 13 kids. I'm going to pause there for dramatic effect because that's too many kids.
That's a lot of kids.
They also lived in a one-bedroom apartment.
Nope.
So it's mom, dad, and then 13 kids in a one-bedroom apartment. Where did they sleep?
On the floor, I'm assuming.
Sure. The other thing about this is his parents were huge dicks. I think it was predominantly his dad, but his mom, it seems like, was not a part of it.
Yeah. And at the very least, I mean, she's also a victim.
She is.
In this situation, but she didn't get her children any help.
Yeah. It's hard because, like you said, she is a victim, but at the same time, there's some stuff in here that she's a little bit culpable for, I have to say.
Yeah.
As a child, both of his parents were raging alcoholics. He was abused allegedly by both of them. And because he was the oldest, lots of people said that he kind of got the worst of it. In this one-bedroom apartment, he had to watch his sadistic father, like diagnosed sadist father, brutally beat both his mother and his siblings, which obviously included him at times. And while we can be concerned and worried for the child, what he becomes as an adult, not so much. We don't feel sorry for him at all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
The child, yes. The adult, no.
Baby Peter had it rough. That's just a fact. On top of the abuse, he was also forced to watch his parents have sex. And in several of the sources I saw, it was not just like consensual sex.
Correct.
His father was often
I saw the same.
Raping his mother. And his father was later convicted of molesting most of his sisters. This abuse led him to attempt to drown two of his friends as an 11-year-old child, is what he said, which ultimately ends up being explained away with like a boys will be boys attitude, and they say it's a tragic accident. This is just a bright red flag from the very beginning, my friends. So apparently, he and two of his friends were out on a raft in this river. He pushed a kid into the water knowing that this kid can't swim on purpose. Another kid jumps in the water to save the boy that Peter had pushed in, and Peter apparently held both of their heads under the water, eventually figuring out that he could basically glide the raft on top of their heads to keep them down under longer.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty bad situation. I think he was like 11 years old when that happened.
Yeah.
And basically the cops...
And he got away with it.
Yes. The cops come to the scene. They say, what happened? I think he told them what happened, and they were like, oh, it was an accident. So...
I think he told them they were playing.
Maybe.
I don't think he was like, I drowned.
He might have.
And they were like, that's all right.
It's cool, dog.
It's cool. We be doing that sometimes as boys.
Things.
I would hope not.
But also, basically, the cops were like, shit happens. What are you going to do? 2 kids drown? What are you going to do?
Essentially, yeah. Let me eat a bite.
Do it. Eat your donut, girl.
Donut bite.
I'll cover for you while you're eating that donut bite. Another problematic situation was his friend group. He made friends with a local dog catcher who was an adult while Peter was a child. And I know we gave a blanket trigger warning, but this is a separate trigger warning because this is going to get dark real quick.
Real fast.
Bestiality dark.
Yeah.
This adult friend taught him how to torture and kill the animals that he caught, so they started on dogs and also introduced him to, just an upfront yikes, bestiality. So this older man took him under his wing and basically pushed Peter to be even worse of a human. So Peter was already not doing great on his own. And then he has this outside influence that is just straight up the most sadistic thing I've ever heard.
After he murders 2 friends and gets away with it.
Yes. So he's already not on a great path.
We're not in a great situation.
Yeah. Also, just as a child, like an 11-year-old child who's friends with an adult dog catcher that murders dogs in his spare time.
Nope.
Like, Peter has no advocates in the entire world.
He doesn't.
I'm not making excuses for him, but shit's hard.
Tiny Peter needed help and intervention.
Child Protective Services.
And he got a dog catcher bestie. Yeah.
A dog catcher bestie is never the answer.
It's never the answer. I hate even saying this.
Me too. So, as Peter got older, his affairs...
Con animalis
began extending to sheep, goats, and other farmyard animals. And then as a teenage boy, he got really into, this is trigger warning number 37. If you are squeamish in any way, you're going to want to press that 30 seconds forward button. Even if you think you can handle it,
it's pretty gross.
It's a lot. If I could skip this, I would.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
So he got really into stabbing or slashing the throats of the animals while he was copulating with them, which makes me feel physically nauseous. Okay. Around the same time, he also started setting small fires and getting caught for arson. So while I'm not 100% sure that he was wetting the bed, he's really hammering home the whole McDonald triad thing.
Yeah. Arson is never a good sign.
Never. If a child is setting fires...
None of what he's doing is a good sign at all. There are no good signs.
Cruelty to animals feels like the worst.
That's the worst sign.
You just get help. Seek help.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't even talk. It's just, nope.
Just immediately. So some research recently has been critical of the McDonald triad, but the line of thinking is basically that if a young child has one or more of these 3 things, it acts as an indicator of possible future violent behavior. So one of them is cruelty to animals, number 2 is setting fires, and 3 is bedwetting. And it specifically indicates the possibility of repeat violent offenses. Recently published research, and I'll include a link for this paper, I think it's from 2018. There's some recent research that was published where they investigated the likelihood of all 3 of these things, or 1 or 2 of these things being present in violent offenders. And they said it's probably most useful as an indicator of a dysfunctional home life. So if you were a teacher or something like that and you saw one of these things, it indicates in all likelihood something is going on at home.
Sometimes, I don't know if this is just me, so cut me off as a real scientist, but sometimes when they discover things that they're like, cruelty to animals is a bad sign. Well, bitch, duh.
Well, yeah, it's like...
Who are you wowing with this information? Not me.
No, I agree. It's also like you're putting together something that I'm going to guess most people have had put together for a real long time.
Really long. Arson and animal killing.
Right.
Probably not a good combo. Well, bitch, duh.
I'm guessing like Neanderthals were like, oh my God, he keeps setting our cave on fire and crushing bugs. Like, what a dick, right?
Yeah.
It's not cool. These destructive behaviors.
Yeah.
It's not like anybody throughout history was like, I love that my kid does this.
I love it so much. Such a great idea. Yeah, no.
Duh. Yeah. And the recent literature basically says it doesn't necessarily indicate that child, like you can't predict whether a child is going to be violent, but I would say if they're like torturing small animals, that's a pretty strong indicator.
It's violent though, I would say.
Yeah, it's already violent. You've already crossed that line.
It's not predicting shit. We're here. Here we are. Welcome to Violent Town.
Yeah, correct.
Back to Peter. When he was 13, he had a relationship with a girl his age who didn't want to have sex with him. She's the hero.
If there is one, it's her.
And then a hero comes along and it's her.
This girl, unnamed.
And so along that same time period, he was caught doing his animal acts with a pig while stabbing it by a local farmer.
Oh my God.
So he was essentially forced to stop because the farmer was like, what are you doing?
The farmer was like, I need therapy.
That's my pig, you bitch.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
Right. And so he was basically told on by this farmer and he was forced to stop doing these things.
That farmer is also the hero.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, same. This is correct. His dad at this point was also imprisoned for molesting his sisters. He was put in jail for 3 years.
Which feels light.
Feels a little light, but like that's pretty common, right? Like child abuse and things like that. So even now, I don't think it's enough time.
But at least he did time for it.
Right. At least he did time.
Because in a lot of cases, I'm guessing they probably don't.
Feels a little light, but... So then at the age of 16... Peter's like, you know what? Fuck this life. I hate my dad. I fucking hate my family.
Which is fair.
I hate that everyone stopped me from doing what I want to do to pigs. Like, I'm Audi 5000. So he stole as much money as he could from his parents, and he, like, ran away from home.
Which I'm guessing is not much.
Not much. Pennies.
They live in a one-bedroom apartment.
Correct. During this time, he was committing petty crimes, and he was, like, consistently, like, serving short prison sentences for misdemeanors. So he didn't like jump into the high life, right?
Yeah.
Same life, different town. And then he says that every time he was put in jail, he got angrier at society and then his tendencies got more violent. And with the increase of his crimes, like that's pretty true.
Yeah.
So we're not looking at a great start.
No. And I feel like during, we're like early 1900s, people were getting institutionalized for a lot of things, at least in America. Feels like the pig thing should have gotten him a few years in an institution.
I mean,
if I may.
At minimum, it's like theft of farm
decency.
Decency. I'm like, what crime is this? I don't know, but it's something.
It's grody.
You can't go stabbing a pig at the minimum. Well, I'm not going to discuss the other thing.
Don't.
I'm not going to do that because you cannot do that. That's disgusting. But you cannot take somebody.
Someone should have turned him in to the local authorities. Like, this guy is not okay.
I'm sure the pig man was like really upset.
I would have needed so much therapy. I would have sued him for psychological damages to myself and my pig.
R.I.P. Wilbur.
Yeah. Or
what?
Maybe the pig was fine.
It was stabbed.
I mean, not psychologically fine.
Stabbed?
Yeah. This is probably not good.
Probably not good.
Okay. In May of 1913, he went next door to this place he was staying to steal from his neighbor who ran the bottom part is a tavern and their family lives above the tavern. During this time, he's on parole from the arson arrest. So what do you do while you're on parole?
Yeah, he'd been lighting shit on fire.
Correct.
Yeah, just consistently
loves
lighting shit ablaze.
To watch things burn, for sure.
Yeah.
While he was in the home... Oh, okay, so he breaks into this tavern. While he's... not the tavern. The tavern is, like, doing business.
Yes, upstairs.
There's people in the tavern. He goes upstairs to the home. He comes across this 10-year-old sleeping named Christine Klein. He attempted to sexually assault her, he stabbed her, and he would go on to tell investigators later that he became very excited at the sight of her blood, which, okay, I can't address that emotionally.
It's like, I always think back to our good friend Bruce when he says, how many stop signs do people have to run through before someone does something? This man is driving a fucking plane on the regular road through stop signs, and everyone's like, That's crazy.
And the plane is trailing bright red flags.
Yeah, all the flags, just like billowing
just
in the
a
breeze.
parade of flags.
Yes.
He's like throwing flags, red flags, out of the plane while he's flying it.
He's essentially being like, I'm a murderer. And I know, again, I always talk shit about police. I know this isn't like the investigative pinnacle at this time period, but how many times does someone have to commit arson?
Okay, you say that, except that apparently... I just lost my place. Okay, apparently there was a police officer in Germany who had like a 95% clearance rate at this point. He was like the detective that lots of detective tropes are based on. He like started the partner system. He was like a really good investigator. And apparently Germany at this time had a bunch of real fucked up serial killers. Like a lot of them. And the general public was very fascinated with true crime.
Yeah.
Oh, 95% clearance rate from one detective in Germany at this time feels like pretty high. That's like higher than most cops probably ever.
Well, then that's even worse that they let him commit these...
That's what I'm saying.
Many crimes.
Get your Poirot ass over here and solve this crime before he kills... Okay.
Back to Christine.
Okay, so I'm deliberately like getting away from this because okay.
Yeah, gotta talk about Christine.
Okay, he stabbed her, would go on to tell investigators that he got excited by the sight of her blood. The scene that he left was terrible, apparently, and it wasn't uncommon, I think, for him to stage his victims in really horrifying ways. And he did all of this to this poor little girl while her parents were literally working in the tavern downstairs from their apartment, like serving beer at the tavern. He was also the type of murderer and criminal that needed to be seen or be exposed for his crimes. Like at the end of this, you'll see he really likes talking about it. He would, for instance, commit the crime and then go to a tavern nearby and ask about the murder, like while the cops are investigating. He'll go to the nearby tavern and discuss and gossip with the neighbors what they knew. He would also go visit her grave and like touch the soil there like a freak. He was like, this is the shit. He loved it.
Yeah, he loved it. He really did. Yeah. He was a real freak.
Just the worst. And he actually got away with it. So part of the reason for that being that the day before he killed this poor baby, Christine's father and uncle had gotten into a really terrible fight, and her uncle had said he was going to do something that they would remember all of his life. Like, I'm going to do something really memorable you don't even know. Like, threatened the dad and then walked away.
Yeah, he, like, threatened his dad, yeah.
And so her uncle was originally brought up on charges because of this, because people witnessed him saying that.
Yeah, it was like a public fight.
Yes. But her uncle was eventually acquitted due to a lack of evidence, thank goodness.
Because he didn't fucking do it.
Right. But also, I'm just thinking about the aftermath of this. Like, this poor man probably had to live as the main suspect in the eyes of the police and the locals for years.
And his family.
Yeah, and his family. Everyone around him thinks that he sexually assaulted and murdered his niece for the purpose of hurting his brother. So I'm absolutely sure that he and his brother's relationship probably didn't last long. Because his brother probably thought he did it.
Right.
Okay.
So he killed another girl 2 months later and again was like excited by her blood. He's disgusting. While he was out murdering, he was also committing acts of arson, this guy. And so he was arrested for that. He was like really great at covering up his murders and really bad at covering up his arson. Because he would like come back and like watch the fire and people would be like, did you do this? Are you here? He'd be like, isn't it cool? And then he would get fucking caught for like lighting fire.
Right. Because he loves to talk about his crimes.
Because he's a freak. So he was arrested for arson and was sent to prison for 8 years. And not that I'm giving anyone advice, but like I think picking one crime at a time would be like the best way.
Probably.
He's obviously not a great multitasker. Anyway.
That was good.
Prison time. So then he's drafted into the German army. And I say, why did they want him?
I had that same question. Like, he was just sentenced to jail for 8 years.
But for arson, I bet they're like, that's violent. We need that. Thank you. It's the army.
We actually love arsonists.
Love that, yeah.
Can we put your arson skills to good use?
To the test here, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's drafted around 1914, so that's the beginning of World War I. But soon after he's drafted, I'm sure he also like had these thoughts. I mean, I'm totally making this up. I do not know. This is not part of the research, but I'm sure he was like, this is going to be like a good time because like it's violent and aggressive.
Yeah.
He gets there and he's like, I will absolutely not be participating in this. And he deserted.
I'm going to guess he didn't like being told what to do.
Literally just, yeah. He just like walked away from the army, which is like against the rules.
Right. Can't do that.
You cannot do this. Right after this, he began committing more acts of arson and sexual assault, and he apparently would watch from a distance as emergency teams would arrive, and then he was arrested for arson. Don't just stay there and watch, like, by yourself, right. You idiot.
Because if you're the only one standing there watching the fire, who should they arrest? You?
Right, so he's doing this at one point. After he deserted, he, like, sets a fire, he gets caught, and when they arrest him, they're like, okay, oh my God, not only is this guy an arsonist, I almost said fire person.
He's that too.
He's an arsonist, but also he deserted in the army. So then the military system put him on trial.
Right.
And they put him in prison. They were like, okay, well, we can't put you back in the army because you're going to run away. So now you have to go to prison now.
You can't be trusted.
Right. While he was in prison, he says that he was exposed to severe forms of punishment, but was, like, aroused by them.
Ugh.
And he enjoyed fantasizing about horrific acts while he was, like, locked up in solitary confinement. So it really was a breeding ground for, like, all of his freak flags to fly.
That's,
I don't know.
Yeah.
He was released in 1921 from his longest jail sentence yet. After his release, he obviously wasn't going to stop crime. Like, that's all he knew.
Yeah.
So at the time, he also continued to engage in arson. He loves to set shit on fire. And he wanted to burn Utica to the ground.
He loves fire. He cannot stay away from it.
He can't.
I also find it so interesting that at this point in his life, he's committed numerous sexual assaults, arsons, murdered, and then his longest sentence so far is for not staying in the army.
Yeah.
They're like, just really getting down to brass tacks. This is what's important.
Well, Germany at the time.
Yeah, it's not unfair.
They're like, you can do a lot of stuff, but what you can't do is run away from us when we tell you to stay.
What you can't do is not honor your commitments. That's important, sir.
And while we may have drafted you against your will, you have to be here.
They're like, hey, I know you don't want to be here, but you have to. So.
And if you don't, you're going to jail.
Right.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. So then he gets out of prison.
Which he actually belonged in jail permanently.
Forever. He gets out of prison because that's what happens in all of these stories, fresh out of prison.
He's just literally at the revolving door of the prison.
And I'm in and I'm out. Back on parole, back.
Yeah, literally.
How many times? Okay. Rehabilitation works. How many times do you have to give this motherfucker parole? He's also very mad at the world when he gets out of prison, which is not a great feature for somebody who's already a serial killer.
I don't know why he's mad at the world. He should be so fucking happy.
Yeah, like, you are the luckiest man alive.
He keeps getting out of prison.
You keep getting off for all of these crimes.
And people don't even know about the bad ones.
He's like, the world is mean to me.
Yeah.
You stabbed a 10-year-old to death. Like, you're
the worst.
The worst. Anyway, everything that happens to you from this point on, you fully deserve.
Absolutely.
From, like, adulthood on. No, you know what? I'm sorry. From Pig on, everything that happens to him is deserved.
I think from drowning his friends on.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
You cannot hold your friend underwater
yeah.
and maneuver your raft on top of them
fucked up.
And be like, oops.
Also, you're 11. Like, I know that kids are kind of psychopaths, but not to that extent. Like, you know you're doing something wrong at 11.
Murder?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, he's out of prison. He moves to Altenburg, where he marries Augusta Scharf, who owned a ship. I don't know anything more than that.
I think that's supposed to say a shop. It's supposed to say a shop. 100%.
Okay. I just read what's on the page here. I'm like,
there you go.
It says ship, I'll read ship.
No ships.
Have you seen those politicians where they, like, keep reading what's on the teleprompter?
100%.
That's me. That's me.
Yeah.
Okay, she owns a shop, my bad, and is a former sex worker. No shame. Do what you got to do.
Mm-hmm.
She had been accused and I think convicted of fatally shooting her first fiance. So maybe she's like, I'm not worried about you because I know how to take care of myself.
Yeah.
And it's possible, because she marries this asshole, it's possible that she was also a terrible person and maybe she, like, murdered the first guy in cold blood. We don't know. Who can say for sure?
Yeah, we don't know.
So for the next 4 years, Peter and Augusta go on to live a relatively normal life, as normal as he can possibly be, which I'm sure is still full of red flags.
Correct, yeah.
Peter did cheat on her, like, a ton, and when she realized it, she encouraged her maids, who he was sleeping with, to press charges saying that he had forced them, which, to be fair, he probably did.
And if he didn't, I'll probably get some flack for this. If he didn't, he has before.
He's done a lot of things.
He's done some things.
And I feel like, you know how, like, being married is really intimate. I'm not saying she knew everything that he was doing, but she had some suspicions for sure, right?
I don't think she knew about the murders.
She also murdered her first husband, so maybe she's okay with it.
Maybe she is okay with murder. No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
The way that he would murder is wild.
Yeah, that's fair.
Not like other murder isn't wild. I just want to say all murder is wild.
No, but he's, like, particularly wild. He's, like, especially wild. So these maids,
like
I couldn't think of another word than wild. I
he's
just
like
said it like 4 times.
Wild.
Like
it's like a wild time.
All the way wild. Okay. Jess is laughing, but she's also eating a donut hole at this present moment.
I'm so sorry.
You're fine.
Donut time. Okay.
Eat your donuts, girl. So these maids come forward. He goes to jail again, finally, for like an actual thing. Whatever. Okay.
for a thing that we've been waiting for this.
He sexually assaulted other people, so I feel like them if they did falsely accuse him, I'm fine with it at this point.
Yeah, I
come
agree.
At me, bro.
I agree, and I know people have different opinions, but it's not me.
Yeah, perfect. That's all I want.
I agree with you 100%.
Thank you. So after he got out of jail, he moves to Düsseldorf with his wife. They don't get divorced or anything. They're like vibing.
No, she stays with him.
Yeah.
She's like, you served your time for your crime, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Come back
home. You cheated on me a bunch. I sent you to jail. We're square.
Yeah.
He goes on then to attempt to murder 4 women who each got away. Apparently, he also sexually assaulted all 4 of these poor women. And then in 1929, he goes on to murder 6 people. This includes men, women, and children.
Yeah.
So the first in this series was poor, innocent 9-year-old Rosa Ollinger. On February 9th, 1929, she, when they found her, had been stabbed 13 times with a pair of scissors and sexually assaulted. He dumped her body under a hedge and then returned hours later to get rid of the evidence by lighting her remains on fire.
Yeah.
5 days later, a 45-year-old mechanic named Shear was his next victim, and he also died of multiple stab wounds, presumably with scissors. Peter Kürten again returned to the scene of the crime to relive the moment, and he even spoke to detectives about this murder.
He's an idiot, and I fucking hate him.
They're like, "Sir, did you see anything?" And he's like, "No."
No, but can you tell me everything you know?
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you guys have got to work.
What are you guys doing over here?
What are you guys working on?
What's going on?
Fingerprinted anyone lately? Want mine?
Yeah, I wish they... Well, did they do that at this time?
Probably not.
God damn it.
It's 1920s.
Priorities, people.
Right.
So while these attacks were happening, the German press extensively covered the stories of his crimes, and he probably was all over that.
Mm-hmm.
And they printed over and over that he was drinking victims' blood, which he was, and where he got the nickname of the Vampire of Düsseldorf.
You know, he's the type of dude where if his name was in the newspaper, he probably like clipped it out and put it in a scrapbook.
Oh, yeah.
That's him.
100%. They didn't know who it was, obviously, but they were basically, the press was connecting the crimes together.
Yeah.
He ended up writing a letter to the police to throw them off, and he switched his murdering signature to a knife instead of scissors to like try to throw everyone off the scent.
Yeah.
He also randomly stabbed 3 people, an 18-year-old girl, a 30-year-old man, and a 37-year-old woman, who were all escaped, but each described him differently.
Mm-hmm.
So there was also speculation that he was like in disguise.
Oh, yeah.
I think what he was doing is trying to, again, this is not based on research, but I think he was trying to figure out
what
like
works for him,
his new way to keep doing stuff. So he was just like testing stuff.
Yeah. Also, at that time, apparently basically a biography ends up being written about him, and they call him an impulse killer because at the time when he was murdering people with scissors, he just carried scissors around like in his pocket.
Yep.
And was just waiting for a victim to come across his path that he liked, and then he would pull his scissors out and stab them. Like very impulsive and disorganized, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 3 days after these stabbings, he murdered sisters, and one of the victims, he like really drank her blood apparently, and the press went to town.
Sure.
The search for the killer received a major setback, however, when a learning disabled man named Strasberg inexplicitly admitted to all of the so-called vampire killings. He was committed to an asylum, and the police were convinced that the case was solved.
Right.
Again, police work. Tragic.
You know, if somebody confesses to these crimes, I feel like police are like, well, let's all go home. That was great, guys. Good work, team.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah. I mean,
it's like, let's look at the reality of the situation for just a second.
Let's use our noggins.
Use your noggin. Is it in all likelihood this person, or is someone using a disguise? Probably kind of smart. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Then by August of 1929, it became apparent to police that they had the wrong guy as these crimes continue happening. There's a series of weird strangulations and stabbings that occur, which culminate in the brutal fairground murder of these two foster sisters, 5-year-old Gertrude Haymacher and her 14-year-old foster sister, Louise Lenson. These two little girls he lured into the bushes while they were at a fair, for Christ's sakes, like doing the
fun
most
family thing. Yeah.
childlike thing you could possibly do. Fuck this guy. Okay.
Yeah. Agreed.
The next day, he assaulted another woman named Gertrude Schult, who survived the attack and gave the police a description of her attacker as a pleasant-looking man around 40 years old. Ida Reuter was then raped and killed in September, and a servant girl named Elizabeth Dorrier was beaten to death on October 12th of 1929. 2 other victims named Muir and Wanders survived brutal hammer attacks.
Mm-hmm.
The idea of a hammer attack is so just
bad,
gruesome. Like, do you know when somebody describes something that happened to them, like, oh, I broke my bone and it hurt really bad, and they're describing it and you can like feel it in your body?
Yeah.
When I read the phrase brutal hammer attacks, that's how it feels to me. Okay.
Yeah.
But in each of these cases, his surviving victims were unable to give really any identifying information, partially because this is the plainest looking motherfucker in the entire world.
Yeah. He just looks like everybody.
He looks like every 30-something white dude from the 1920s.
Yep.
Like, I've seen probably 20 different pictures of his face in different articles that we read, and I still don't know if I could pick him out of a lineup. That's how plain this guy is.
Same.
His face is so forgettable.
It is. It really is.
Which is like exactly what you need to do this type of crime.
Yeah.
So what's going on is basically a constant stream of really sadistic and unusual attacks, especially for the 1920s, because these people are on their things don't happen here vibes. Those vibes are strong. People really feel that way. Mm-hmm. And the news coverage is out of control. And like I said, the German population at this time was very into true crime, which they're like between 2 world wars, so maybe it's like an escapism kind of thing. Like the world really sucks shit, so let's get out of here for a second by reading about true crime. So there's obviously mass hysteria that Peter is, I'm sure, just absolutely loving because that's his vibe. He was also doing really sick shit, like sending the newspapers maps to the bodies he's dumping and sticking around to talk to police when they come to find the body. Hello, maybe just go ahead and question anyone who comes up to you during an investigation.
Again, the police, seriously?
Yeah.
Were they just handing out badges at 8th grade graduation?
It feels that way. I mean, I know
they
don't have the benefit of things like Criminal Minds in the 1920s.
But if you have received a map to a body and there is a man standing there being like, well, what are y'all doing here?
What are you guys doing?
More than once?
Like, you know what probably happened? He probably showed up to more than one crime scene and the cops were like, I'm sorry, your face is so forgettable.
I've never met you before.
I literally cannot put the dots together. Where do I know you from?
I've either never met you before or I've met you 100 times and it's one or the other.
And I cannot tell the difference.
Yeah.
So from the winter of 1929 to the spring of 1930, his crimes continue and he leaves many survivors who go on to escalate the public fear by recounting the horrors that they had encountered to the press. To the press, not pressed with a T.
Like we are to solve the crimes.
Correct. And then exactly what we're doing right now, there's public condemnation of the police for failing to catch the killer.
Correct.
Which is fair.
They're correct in this.
To be honest, it feels really fair.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yes. At the very start. Back with Christine.
Yeah, really back with those 2 little kids.
Again, I say, who was investigating that?
There's a string of fuck-ups here.
Yeah.
Also, this is just so you know what kind of dude Peter is. After one of these murders of a little girl, an angry mob forms, and Peter grabs a pitchfork and literally joins the mob.
He is loving his life.
And that's one of the most messed up things I've ever heard.
Yeah.
He also very clearly wanted to be part of the whole investigation. Like, he's showing up, talking to police.
Mm-hmm.
He's a total psychopath because I cannot imagine how nervous a normal person would be. Like, I get nervous when the cops talk to me and I didn't do anything. And I can't imagine how stressed you would be if you were a normal person, but he's just in the mix loving it because he's a psychopath.
So, yeah, same. So then on May 14th, 1930, Peter offered a young unemployed woman, Maria Budlick. Okay.
Such an unfortunate last name.
Well, yeah, it's okay. It's not her fault.
No.
Somewhere to stay, and took her to his apartment, hoping to have sex with her. She made it to his apartment and basically was like, wait a fucking minute. I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
This feels creepy vibes. And she ran the fuck away.
You just trust your gut. If you feel a creepy vibe, you GTFO quick.
Yeah.
Right?
So he runs after her, catches her, and says, okay.
No.
Why would you run after someone?
Don't.
Catch them.
Don't.
And then say, oh, no worries. I'll, what are you chasing me for then?
Right. Stop chasing me.
Why are you talking to me?
It makes me more worried when you're chasing me.
Yes. He catches her and says, okay, no worries. I'll take you back to the train station. But instead, he took her into a nearby forest and he raped her before he let her go.
Right.
She didn't go to the police, though. I think she was afraid to go to the police. I'm sure he threatened her and he's a psychopath.
It's also the 1930s, like...
I mean, obviously the police weren't doing a great job, so I can understand.
Right. And I'm going to guess attitude about rape victims was probably not great.
Yeah, probably not great. She wrote a letter to a friend, though, about the situation and was like, this is what happened to me, oh my God. But she didn't address it correctly, and the letter ended up being opened by the Postal Service and then sent to the police because the Postal Service, whatever hero... I don't know what color they wear. Hero in blue. Well, no.
In America, they wear blue. Yeah.
Yeah. Hero in blue.
Or khaki.
And then they sent it to the police.
Yeah.
So the police got her letter anyway. Literally at the same time, Peter is like, I'm going to confess to my wife what's been going on. And because they had posted like reward money. I think he was like, I'm kind of tired.
Yeah.
Or it felt like he had released too many people from, like, not actually successfully murdering them.
I think he thought he was going to get caught, personally.
His wife was supposedly shocked, listened to the whole story, and then he said, turn me in, and then get the reward money.
Yeah. Which is weird that he actually kind of looked out for his wife, because he's such a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He didn't look out for her not enough to do all of this stuff, but then he wants her to be taken care of. Like, I do not understand him as a concept.
Right. No, same.
Yeah.
So he's like, turn me in, get this money. So on May 24th, 1930, she does what he says.
Yeah.
And took the police to their designated meetup site, which was a church, where Peter surrendered quietly. And his wife ended up getting, like, the money.
So after he was arrested, he literally just confesses to all of it. He ended up admitting to specifically 79 violent acts of crime in all. The police were seriously like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And so they ordered the first ever performed psychiatric evaluation by this professor, Karl Berg, who diagnosed him as a sexual serial killer.
Yeah.
That's why he does them. He was like the first person to put that kind of idea forward, I think. The findings were even more terrifying as he was deemed perfectly sane and fit to stand trial. And he did. He goes on to stand trial. His trial starts on April 13th, 1931, and it was a huge national event, which understandably, because he's been terrorizing this country for like decades at this point. It attracted journalists, obviously, but also academic observers. He had recounted much of his crimes to Dr. Karl Berg, who eventually goes on to write a book called The Sadist, which became a classic work of criminology literature that was kind of the first...
It's like at the forefront of all of this.
Yes, it's like one of the first ever textbooks almost about what you should be looking for in this type of criminal. Peter went to great lengths also to convince the authorities of his guilt with all kinds of detail, perhaps in the hope that his full cooperation would ensure the maximum financial benefit for his wife. He also had a very good, nearly photographic memory, and people that were watching him give this testimony said that his recollection of these offenses obviously provided him with great pleasure, while everyone else in the room is like, ew, seriously, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
It's rough.
So he was put on trial for 9 counts of murder and 7 counts of attempted murder, and he was actually placed in a special cage to prevent escape, which why are you just making a special cage to prevent escape? Like, why is this a new thing? This
like,
is why
feels like that should already have existed.
Right. So they put him in this special cage to prevent him from escaping and possibly, or the families of the victims from attacking him, which they obviously really wanted to, and same. When the trial started, he initially retracted his super extensive confession and pled not guilty. And eventually, he admitted his guilt while being interrogated on the stand by the examining magistrate.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he had like a little twinge of guilt for his wife, and then he was like, never mind.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to jail forever or die.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Spoiler alert, you're gonna die.
I know I gave you very extensive details and kind of bragged about it before, but I don't want
to do that.
Murder me?
Yes, we are. So when he was asked about being remorseful, he said, I have none, being remorse. Never have I felt any misgiving in my soul. Never did I think to myself that what I did was bad, even though human society condemns it.
Mm-hmm.
My blood and the blood of my victims must be on the heads of my torturers. The punishments I have suffered have destroyed all my feelings as a human being. That is why I have no pity for my victims. So he's basically garbage. We already knew.
Hot garbage, yeah.
The jury took only 90 minutes to return a verdict of guilty on all counts.
Mm-hmm.
And he received 9 death sentences, which I think is funny every time that's
like really symbolic.
Like, you extra die.
You're gonna die 9 times.
And even though I don't support that, the death penalty, I do feel like this guy deserved this.
I feel like it's really fair in this case. And I rarely feel that way.
Yeah. He was sentenced to death by the guillotine, which is like, woof.
It's so strong.
That is a woof moment. And the sentence was carried out July 2nd, 1931 in Cologne, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Peter's last words were asking, quote, tell me, after my head is chopped off, will I still be able to hear, at least for a moment, the sound of my own blood gushing from the stump of my neck? That would be the pleasure to end all pleasures.
And the guy that he asked that was like, okay.
Bye-bye, man.
Nervous laughter. Yeah, I don't know.
Haha, you are crazy.
You tell me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Pull the switch.
He's never returned from the dead. Hopefully you're not a real vampire.
If there was one, it was this guy.
Yeah.
He said to the legal examiners before his death that his primary motive was to strike back at an oppressive society. He never denied that he had sexually molested his victims, but he always claimed during his trial that that was not his primary motive. Okay.
No one believes you.
Literally ever. In 1931, scientists attempted to examine irregularities in his brain in an attempt to explain his personality and his behavior. They never really found anything. Sorry to spoil that. His head was actually dissected and mummified and is currently still on display at Ripley's, believe it or not, in Wisconsin.
That is sick. That shouldn't be the case, I don't think.
I don't think anybody's head should be on display without their consent, even this guy. But to be honest, I feel like he did probably get the ending he deserved.
And that's what we know about that.
That's what we know about Peter Kürten, the real-life vampire.
If you have a recommendation for a topic for us to cover that's maybe a little bit lighter than this, that'd be great.
Oh, please.
DM us at Malpractice Podcast on Instagram or email us at malpracticepodcast@gmail.com.
Don't forget to leave us a review wherever you like to listen. I swear, we read them, we like them.
We love them.
Sorry for this super dark episode. We hope you liked it.
Yeah.
I think that's what people are here for, right?
I think sometimes.
Okay. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next week. And don't forget, malpractice makes perfect.
Bye.
Bye-bye.